Let's talk about Steve. Steve is, of course, America's reinvention expert. He's the chairman and founder of Liquor.com, among other things. He's the author of the very popular Internet Profits. The world's leading experts reveal how to profit online. And he has appeared on a lot of media, more media than I probably have watched he has appeared on. So he's appeared on ABC, on Fox, on CNBC, and then on 300 radio shows across the country. He's truly a marketing expert and an Internet expert.
Well, I absolutely appreciate it, and thanks for having me on, McKay. Thanks, Thomas, for inviting me to be on as well. Today we're going to talk about what I call my Fab Five, which are the fast 5 easy ways to really elevate your online game and drive traffic and convert those visitors to customers and begin cultivating a loyal, borderline fanatic following. Now I'm going to have about 20 minutes here, so we're just going to jump straight into this and do the best I can to provide a ton of content in a fairly short period of time here. So make sure you've got a pad of paper and a pen, and absolutely get ready to take some notes, because I've stacked quite a bit in here in this very brief presentation. But no, first and foremost, I want to make sure that you understand that this is not some sort of get-rich, quick scheme. You can't look at internet marketing in the way that some people like to look at it, which is, you basically put up a site and then you get that Kevin Costner thing going, and before you know it, you've got 1 million people coming every month, and you're just raking money hand over fist. And the people that are trying to sell you on that type of mentality, I mean, really the only person they're making rich is themselves. So there's no money in it for anyone other than the person saying that they absolutely positively can get you the results you want in an expedited amount of time. You have to understand that all of this takes work, and all of this requires consistency. And so if you're thinking about how to grow your online business and your online presence, the one word you have to write down and keep being very mindful of as you move forward is consistency. So you have to be consistent with your online efforts. This is not, the internet obviously affords a lot of opportunity for you to do some amazing things, but none of it happens overnight, and there is no magic bullet. And I can attest to that. Certainly I've had a lot of ups and a lot of downs as an entrepreneur, 25 plus years, and also as an online veteran since 1993. We launched on CompuServe's electronic mall way back when. If you remember CompuServe, you remember that they used to be a dominant player in the game. And then a little AOL company came along, and CompuServe kind of poo-pooed them, and then before you know it, their CompuServe went by the wayside, and AOL really dominated that online game. But I've been online now since 1993, and we launched a fully functional e-commerce site in 1995. So I've definitely seen a lot in those 20 years, and the growth of the internet in the last 5 years far surpasses the growth that we've seen in the 15 before that, and literally there will be 2 billion people coming online in the next 2 years. So I mean, it is very much still a great opportunity for you to build an online business, and moving forward, you'll have that opportunity as well. But you got to get in the game, and you have to establish that position. As McKay said, I am the chairman and co-founder of Liquor.com. It's a little blurry there on the logo. That's my mistake, but you can still read it, and that is Liquor.com. We get about 2.5 million uniques to Liquor.com every single month, and then I've got other web properties as well. But Liquor.com was a domain that I acquired in 1998, and it's kind of gone through various iterations over the last 15 years. But now we focus solely on mixology and cocktail culture. And I want to go over just a few of the ideas that we use with Liquor.com and some of the other web properties. But just to finish out my resume here, as McKay said, I'm the author of Internet Profits. The world's leading experts reveal how to profit online, which features 25 of the world's best, including Mike Filsaime and Armin Morin and Steve Harrison and many, many others. It's not an anthology. They didn't write anything, but I did spend 18 months working with, interviewing, and studying alongside these leading experts, and share their tips, tools, tactics, and strategies in the book Internet Profits. and I invite you to grab a copy of Internet Profits for free, which you can do at internetprofits.com/free, as you'll see there on this slide. And we also started something called Internet Profits Live, where we bring the world's leading experts to one stage, and we just did our second event in April, and we had Brennan Burchard and Joel Kahn and Pat Flynn and Jason Van Orden and a number of others there, all people that you should know, all people that you should absolutely be following. So let's take a look really quick. Again, I've got just a brief amount of time, so I want to really try to pack this in. But let's take a look at what I call the Fab Five, and so far as what you can do and how you can do it to really elevate your online game. And so number one on the list is, in fact, the number one, which in my way of definition here in my thinking stands for being able to identify the one thing you were born to do. And ultimately, you have to be able to answer that question, which is, what is your what? What is that one thing that your soul is compelled to do? And when you then are clear on what it is that you are here to do and what it is that you really have that is unique within your DNA, that is unique within your inherent blueprint, the only way to build a sustainable company that avoids the godforsaken expiration date is to build something that gets you absolutely fired up to jump out of bed every day. And that really does stem from being clear on how you are inherently wired to excel. Now, you may be thinking, well, you know, am I fired up about liquor.com or anything of that nature? You know, it sounds not at all like what I was born to do, and you're right. It's not. It is an asset that I own, that I have owned, and I have a team out of San Francisco that runs that company. But my work for the past 5 years has been solely focused on pursuing what it is that I'm compelled to do. And the book Internet Profits was really all about the how. So once you have your what, you need to have that how. How do you share that gift with the world, and how do you monetize it? And so it all does tie together. And obviously, if you want to talk offline about my story, I'm happy to connect with you. But for right now, I need you to write this down, which is, you have to answer the question of what is your what. So write down, what is my what? What is that one thing that I'm absolutely fired up to do, what I was put here to do, and what is within my inherent blueprint and my DNA. So that is the first tip for really building a sustainable business online, is to build it around something that you absolutely love and are fired up about. And often you can answer those questions in terms of what are you fulfilled by, what are you compelled to do, by looking in the mirror and starting with your life experiences. In my new book, which is called What is Your What? Discover the One Amazing Thing You Were Born to Do, which will be out in late September, I go into pretty great detail about how to discover that. And again, if you grab a free copy of Internet Profits at internetprofits.com/free, then you will, as you'll see there, be on the mailing list, and I'll keep you posted on when that book comes out. So number two here on the list is, when you then start thinking about what to do online, and hopefully you build it around your what, but ultimately the question that you have to ask yourself and be able to answer is, how do you stop competing on price? And ultimately, the question, you should write this down, is, are you chasing or are you creating the opportunity? And what ends up happening is that so many people get caught up in this commodity conundrum where, let's say, for instance, you figure out you can buy a toilet seat for $1, and you could sell it for $1.50, and you know, before you know it, you've got a $1 million toilet seat company, right? I mean, it's what's known as a commodity. There's a need for it, don't get me wrong, but at the same token, are you fired up to do it? Is this something that as a child you would have chosen to do? Because I guarantee you, if you ask the toilet seat magnate, you know, if you had asked that man when he was a little boy how he was going to make ends meet when he grew up, I mean, I guarantee you that the toilet seat magnate would not have had those ends in mind as a child. So, you know, reality is that you have to understand that there is obviously a way to create a business around commodities. Don't get me wrong. We all need glasses. We all need napkins. We all need toilet seats. But is this something that you're doing because you're compelled to do it and therefore you're creating the opportunity, or is it something that you're doing because you see an opportunity to make money and therefore you're chasing the opportunity? My hope, and certainly what I would suggest for you in number 2 on the list here, is to avoid getting into those commodity-driven circles where you're always competing on price, and the only thing that differentiates you from your competitor is the particular style of that commodity that you've created. So be very clear on whether or not you are in fact, competing on price and in one of those commodity-driven circles. Number three, you've got to make sure that you are very clear on what your niche is. And again, that goes back to identifying what your what is. And there's a lot of people who say, you know, you don't have to niche and this, that, and the other. You can cater to all sorts of different people. In my way of thinking, that's a huge mistake. You can do different things, but you should have a different website for those things if you serve different markets. Blinds.com is an example here. This is obviously a commodity-driven opportunity, but it's owned by a friend of mine, and clearly Blinds.com is all about, well, blinds, things for your windows. This is an $85 million a year business, and they carry zero inventory. I mean, literally zero inventory. It's all fulfilled by third parties. And it works because they go very deep. And so, again, something to write down here is you want to go very deep and not wide. That's the way to really succeed online. And as you're figuring out what your niche is, it's important to declare yourself an expert. I mean, and really own that space. So this is a screenshot of what you'll see if you go to steveolsher.com, and we'll talk about just this site and a little bonus on the Fab 5 here in just a moment. But ultimately, I am known as America's reinvention expert because I said that that's who I am. So you really want to make sure that as you establish your expertise, that as you establish your niche and as you just nail your what and then share that gift with the world, that you become known as an expert in that space. That's how I've done over 300 radio and TV shows and have become known as America's reinvention expert because I said that I am. And if you look at this site, you know, again, this is one of the things, this is a bonus on the Fab 5 here, but if you look at the site, this site does one of the two things that a website should do. And so what are the two things? Well, number one, a website should either capture opt-in information or you should be selling a product. And so when you look here at, this is what you'll see if you go to internetprofits.com/free, you'll see that it's all about the opt-in. It's all about capturing the information. And so what that does is it enables me then to communicate with you down the line. And this is one of the big misses that a lot of people, in my opinion, have with their sites is that they simply just give everything away for free. They write blog posts, they have videos, they do this, that, and the other, and they have a lot of great content, but they don't ask anyone for anything in exchange for what you worked really hard to learn. And even if you're, you know, not a quote-unquote expert in the space, you still have a lot of life experience that has led you to provide your particular perspective on that subject, and you have to get people to pay for that. And so when I say pay, it doesn't mean pay money, but it's a fair exchange. They get your content, they get your information in exchange for providing their name and email. So again, if you go to steveolsher.com, as I go back a slide here, as you'll see, you don't get anything from me unless you opt in to get it. And it's kind of hard for a lot of people to get their arms around, but I can tell you that it works extraordinarily well, especially when you then tie it into what I call, and it's not even my term, it's just what's known as the funnel. Another term for this is the integrated product suite. And the way that the funnel works is you want people to come into your funnel, which means come into your CRM system, your database system, where you capture their name and email so you can begin communicating with them. And you do that typically by providing something for free. That is the most common way that you get people into your funnel so they can begin to become familiar with who you are and you can develop a relationship with them. And what you're seeing here is you start off at the top and then you move towards different levels of products for sale. Now, we have two different product funnels. One's in the internet marketing space and one is in the personal development space. And so both of these run basically from free to up to $10,000 with products and services all the way in between. You need to meet people where they are. Some people like to learn, they're auditory, they like to hear things. Some people are more visual, they want to see things, and some people are more touch and feel, and they want to be in person in a networking or seminar or one-on-one coaching environment. So it's your responsibility to nail your what, to nail that niche, to declare that expert status, and then create a product funnel around your particular area of expertise. And another way to think about that is the integrated product suite. Now here's an example of a campaign that we did where we did 2 campaigns and attracted over 11,000 opt-ins in a very short period of time. Not 100% sure if, yeah, you can see it's large enough for you to be able to see the numbers here. So what you're seeing is that as of 9/13, in this particular campaign, we added almost 9,000 subs for the Internet Profits book, and then almost 2,200 subs for another book that we have, which is called Journey to You. And it's really quite simple if you're willing to do this, which is align with the big dogs. And the single fastest way that, and this is number 5 on the Fab 5 here, this is the single fastest way to grow your business, is you have to be willing to align with the big dogs. You have to be willing to seek out those who have, and shall we say, the eyeballs that you're looking for. They already communicate with your audience. They are folks that you would maybe cut off a limb to partner with, because ultimately these are the folks that are the big boys and girls in the space. These are the people who, with the push of a button, by hitting send, can transform your business. And so how do you get on their radar? Well, one of the easiest ways to get on their radar is to follow them and start repurposing some of their content in terms of sharing their content and providing credit in your newsletter, in maybe in a blog post, maybe doing a video. So do like a review of their book. Just in social media, you can retweet, you can share. That the idea is you want to start making yourself known to the folks in the space. Perhaps you can interview them and do a DVD series or an interview series, or you can write a book like I did with Internet Profits. Before Internet Profits, I didn't have relationships with Mike Filsaime, Armin Morin, and all those people. That was as a direct result of putting together an initiative to have them share what they knew with an audience that we were cultivating. And so you don't always have to have a platform. As a matter of fact, most people don't have a platform in place before they start contacting some of these big dogs. But if you want to really take your online game to the next level, you've got to figure out where the eyeballs are and who is dominating your particular niche. Like with Liquor.com, we consistently post to Forbes.com and Huffington Post and a number of the other large sites where people gather. And that's one of the easiest ways to then start driving traffic to what you're doing. Again, find the big people in the space, reach out for them, volunteer at their events, interview them. I mean, do whatever you can do to get on their radar. But ultimately, you really want to add value for those folks so that at some point down the line, they might think about participating in something that you're doing. There's no guarantees, but you know it's certainly possible, and that's how we built our business very, very quickly, and how we've ramped up to over 2.5 million uniques on Liquor.com is by partnering with the folks who are very big in the space. If you go to Liquor.com, you'll see that we've got over 100 contributors right now. They're among the best of the best in the world who contribute to something which is called drinkwire.liquor.com. And that's another thing for you to think about, is how do you get their participation? How do you get your customers involved? How do you get your clients involved? So it's not just push, but you really then figure out how to get a pull environment going as well, where your allies and your consumers are contributing to the success of your site. So again, I know we had to keep this really brief here, and hope this has been helpful, because I really do want you to understand that it's in fact very, very doable, and it all requires you, number one, to become crystal clear on what your what is. Again, that's the one thing you were born to do. Really try to avoid those commodities and stay out of the commodity-driven circles. Number two, create the opportunity as opposed to chasing the opportunity. Make sure that you nail your niche and declare yourself an expert in whatever area, whatever that field might be for you. Of course, you've got to figure out how to master conversion. And clearly in today's presentation, and Thomas is going to take over here in just a couple of minutes, so don't go away. But clearly in today's presentation, we didn't have a lot of time to jump into that. But mastering conversion is key towards building an online business that is sustainable. You've got to learn how to align with the big dogs. And of course, you then will be in a position to profit. And very quickly here, I just want to make sure that you're aware that we recently finished and are about to release something called Internet Profits, which is the Masters Collection. And if you're interested in learning more about what the Masters Collection is, I encourage you to drop me an email and let me give you my contact information so you can reach out for me directly, which is Steve@SteveOlsher, that's OLSHER.com. So again, Steve@SteveOlsher.com. And please do reach out to me, because the Masters Collection, I promise you, will change the way that you do business both on and offline.
You mentioned, and a lot of people have noticed this and noted this during your presentation and then afterwards, you mentioned connecting with influencers, with the big dogs. How do you do that? That seems to be the question everybody's asking. How do you actually go about connecting with those? How do you kick the door in? How do you get your foot in there?
Well, as I briefly went over, and obviously we have limited time, and I welcome, I certainly welcome anyone to drop me an email to Steve@SteveOlsher.com. But realistically, it's a matter of getting on their radar. You never, see, the thing is that most people make the mistake of asking before a relationship is in place. So, I mean, you have to have a relationship in place before you ask for anything, and that means you have to over-deliver insofar as value. You have to provide something for them, whether it's volunteering at an event, whether it's reposting something that they put on, whether it's reaching out for them to see how you can help, to ask what their next big initiative is and how you might be able to assist them. You have to add value for them first, and you have to cultivate that relationship over time. I mean, it could literally change. It could literally take 2 to 5 years before one of these big dogs will do anything for you. But you have to be willing to go down that road, and you start with people that are in your same boat, and you lift that, that rising tide lifts all ships. I mean, you can't go to someone with 500,000 contacts and expect them to hit send for you when they don't know you. You start with someone that has 100 contacts, just like you do, and you guys do an exchange, and then you go from there.
That's awesome. And then sort of a piggyback follow-up question to that, and I suppose this depends on the area you're in or you want to get into. What's the end goal here? Do you think it's to partner on some sort of sales strategy, on some joint marketing? I mean, does it really just depend on your niche, or is there an end goal in mind that you think is the most effective as to how these big dogs, if you will, can actually help you in the long term, as you said, 2 to 5 years down the road?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you have to understand what your goals and objectives are. I mean, you have to be very clear on what it is that you're looking to do long term. See, most people go into those type of ask situations with a very short-term mentality, and that's going to be very short-sighted. And so, ultimately, as you go into the idea of cultivating that relationship, you have to understand really what your long-term initiatives, what your long-term objectives are. And with that in mind, you can then put those stepping stones in place where you get one baby step running at a time so that ultimately you can get towards your desired destination. But it's not, again, the mistake that so many people make is they think about what's here and now, and they don't think long-term on that relationship.
That's good advice, to keep a long-term strategy in mind. Make sure you don't burn anybody. Make sure you're focused on the long-term relationship. So, awesome. Steve, any last words from you? And then I'll ask for the same thing from Thomas. Any final words from you, Steve, on building your brand online and making sure you're focused on the long-term strategy, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that the best thing to do is to learn from those that are where you want to be. And in the book Internet Profits, P-R-O-P-H-E-T-S, you literally get an inside look to the journeys that 25 of the world's best have made and what they do now and how they do it. And so I certainly recommend that people start there. And again, you can grab a free copy at Internet Profits, PROPHETS.com/free. And that would be my recommendation, is start there and get your feet wet in the space. And then if we can help you in any way moving forward, obviously just reach out for me at Steve. It's Steve Olsher, OLSHER.com.
Awesome. Guys, thank you very much. We appreciate your time today, and we appreciate everybody for coming.